Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for returning to the Schwab YouTube coaching channel for our next topic, getting started with Thinkorswim. I'm your host, Kevin Horner, today, stepping in for our friend Cameron May. We're going to chat a little today about grids and perhaps some of our grid formations that are available to us. You know, Thinkorswim is one of these tools that has so many features and functions that we need to really center and focus on specific areas to really blow out an understanding for our users. And that's what we're going to do today with the grids, which really do a nice job of giving us ways to monitor the market, keep an eye on certain things, and not be bogged down by those certain things every single day of your trading week. We can rely on and utilize access to these grids very quickly. So we're going to show you some of the things that you might consider utilizing. In fact, I'll be able to share some of these grids with you in real time if you're joining us live. But if you're getting us in the archive, you'll also have the availability to access those because I'm going to place them in the show notes for you at the conclusion of today's show. So with that, we'll get started. I want you also to know you've got Ben Watson available to us in the chat. He's going to get to questions that I'm unable to get to. But being that I'm a solo here, we're working with Thinkorswim, your questions are likely questions that another viewer has. So please feel comfortable getting those into the chat for me, and I'll try to bring those in live to the conversation as well. Now, before we get going, I'll remind you that everything we cover here is informational and educational exclusively. We are not recommending a specific approach to trading the market. We will probably discuss some semblance of technical analysis to a certain extent. We also have access to all of the features of the platform, so you do need to know a little bit about options, I suppose. We're just not going to talk about options from a standpoint of trading them, but maybe things that traders who do trade options might look to and keep an eye on. So you need to know that options carry a higher level of risk. They're not suitable for all investors. You do need to be approved on each individual account in which you might like to trade options here at Schwab. So make sure you go through the requisite steps, and you want to be familiar with the characteristics and risks of standardized options. So, as I noted today, we are diving right into things, everybody. We are jumping straight to the Thinkorswim desktop application, the one that many of us rely on throughout our day, and certainly from a standpoint of hosting our classes for you, we rely frequently, if not almost exclusively, on the Thinkorswim desktop application. Now, if you're looking at this and saying, you know, Kev, that's a pretty cool looking visual of Thinkorswim, but it doesn't resemble anything like I have available when I access Thinkorswim the first time, you're right. I have, of course, customized my settings, mostly my appearance details, to be in line with what I want to see from the platform. And as you can note here, everybody, I've got some manually drawn lines in my chart, but I've also eliminated a lot of the background noise. So I don't have price or timelines on my chart. It's very clean and very basic. But the color scheme also differs. And before we get into grids, I just wanted to remind those of you who are probably in a process of getting started, hence the title here today, with this platform, you want to know that any place you see this gear icon, this is a place, as you would think, that allows you to make some customizations or alterations to your tool. Now, what I want to encourage you to do before you really dive into things, everybody, is to ensure that some of these settings are set correctly for your process. Number one, I want you to think about your order defaults. I think this is a very important aspect, especially for somebody just getting their feet wet here. We're going to default on equities to 100 shares, and I believe the increment default is also 100 shares. But you know what? There's a very big difference between trading, say, 100 shares of Ford and 100 shares of Netflix. Those dollars devoted to the trade are going to be quite different. So there's probably a happy medium somewhere in here for you in terms of your default quantity for your orders. And I'd encourage you to set this for your comfort zone. Additionally here, back to the General tab, if you scroll on down to Look and Feel, this is where we get to define that dark preference that I have for my approach with my charts. And I've got it already saved as Kev's dark preferences, but you can start from our default dark. You can start from the Chinese dark if you want, and then go through the process of editing some of those details. I, again, think you'll find yourself having a lot of fun getting this built the way that you'd like. Now, maybe you're not going to have fun doing it. I had a blast. I found the freedom of the color pinwheel and palette at my fingertips to just be awesome. And I played with it for a while just to make sure that I was getting access to everything and I knew all that I had at my fingertips. So I would encourage you to do this with your preferences, of course, and then make sure you're also playing with the size of your font. And you should know, I'm sure this goes without saying, as we increase font size, we lose a little bit of real estate, right? So let's make sure we're at least cognizant of that as you're increasing your font size. You can also indicate that you'd like your spacing amongst columns to be roomy or tight beyond our default of normal. So, as you increase and play with the font size, you might consider also playing with your spacing and everything else here. And then the last thing that I'm going to note is that by default, we don't set you up with the colors associated with your monitor page, meaning your profit and losses being in green or red respectively. But we do think you can set that up here. We certainly know that many of us like to have that color differentiation on your monitor tab. Come down to show color price ticks. Again, we're under the general tab in the upper left, and then display. And you'll just want check marks in both position statement and account statement, and then that'll carry the colors for profit in green, colors for loss in red by default to your monitor page and your account statement. So that might be helpful for everyone there. Okay, now I work frequently in what I reference as my single stock with intraday periods. This is the grid that I work from consistently. Now I have it today at this moment maximized, and that's giving me the individual daily chart. Now, of course, I know that to be daily in one day because that's what I've set it to. But if I clicked on that little caret, you'll see that it's part of my favorites drop down, which have a few, of course. And we're currently on 1 year, 1 day. Now, as I navigate through, which I can do with my arrows, or if I wanted to have the grid format visually, I could hit that little return arrow, and now I've got all 4 of them side by side. Now, that's helpful for me for the way that I'm working, and I recognize, of course, it's not going to be ideal for all users of the platform. So I want to speak to a couple of key components about how I've built this so that the detail I'm getting is exactly what I want and not any of the stuff that's not going to benefit me. So the first thing I'll point out is that each of my tools, or in this case, 4 separate charts, these are all on that number 5 symbol link. And that's why they all show currently as maintaining SPX, right? And I've got, excuse me, a daily chart here. As we move to the right, you can see I've got a 5-minute bar. Move to the lower left, I've got a 1-hour bar. And then to the lower right, I'm on a weekly. Now, weekly might be good for you. It might be a little off. Maybe you want something different, maybe a 4-hour bar, which is basically the same as a daily chart anymore. If you go out 6 months, 180 days, yeah, you're going to find, quite a very similar look between the daily chart in the upper left and the lower right chart, going to be very much in line with things. But if by some chance, everybody, you didn't want to see 4 different time frames for the same position, consider changing the icons here. Perhaps you want to have 4 separate, all set with unlink, or the broken chain here, if you will. What that's doing is showing that it's not going to change unless you change it in the symbol location for that tool specifically, right? So today, if I change anything here, Apple, for example, it's going to change all 4 of my Apple charts, right? All four become Apple because they are all linked together. And of course, because I've got my watch list over here linked together as well by virtue of my symbol 5, as I navigate through my watch list, I get a shift to my charts as well. So this is a very common way of doing it, but by no means the only way to build a grid. So let me also remind you that anytime we're looking for more real estate, we just go into the actions menu, maximize sell. And now if I wish to navigate, I'm going to be using my arrows. So my arrows will take me to my 5-minute bar and now to my 1-hour bar. And again, notice here in red, it's giving me the box I'm working in, right? So I know which one I'm on. So that should help you understand where we are at any given moment. But, by no means is this really the only way to do it. And so I wanted to highlight a couple of cool ways to think about accessing this. The grid should offer you ways to view the market in a number of key details. So what we're going to do, and you'll see here, I've got two lists here, right? My letter number 0 through L, and then my letter M through letter T. This is just compartmentalizing my saved grids for me, making them easily available to me as I move forward. So I happen to have one grid already loaded that's different than what I normally maintain, and it happens to be very simply a comparison grid of price movement in the futures quote of gold versus the futures quote of silver. And I'm only bringing this up again, not as an encouragement for you to use it, but more specifically an understanding of what can be done within this tool. Create a chart or a multitude of charts. Maybe it's not just a daily look here, which is what we've got. 1 year, 1 day, comparing gold and silver futures. The gold, and in this case, it says dollar correlation, but let me change this. I think I've got the dollar correlation. Yeah, there it is, dollar correlation. So here's gold as it works against the price of the US dollar. Notice how the dollar's been heading lower and gold has been heading higher. This is not an uncommon development, but could be one that some traders are monitoring to see if there's a shift between both at the same time, which could kind of give you an understanding of a change in sentiment relative to either of these instruments. But it's not, of course, the only thing available to you. Let me show you another thought for some traders that you want to incorporate. A couple of things that I've built in here additionally. I have a Dow theory look at things, which compartmentalizes Dow Industrials right alongside the Dow Transport Index. So you've got the industrials on the left, transports on the right. Many of you are longer term investors. You might consider these two charts to be very important, right? This goes back to a theoretical viewpoint of the market from Charles Henry Dow about 150 years ago when he got started, was thinking that these two needed to work in concert with one another. They need to move together, meaning if we've got the Dow Industrials making highs, we can validate the Dow Industrials doing so with the Dow Transports making highs at the same time. Now, we can't say that at this moment in time. We do have the transports making lower highs, pardon me here. So things don't look as ideal from a Dow theory standpoint, but some traders would argue that's because our market's not the same as it was in, say, 1890, early 1900s. So that's one other way you might conceive of this. I'm going to show you yet another way to look at the market broadly. Some traders want to see a breakdown of all the sectors. So maybe they want to see 12 boxes. Give this a quick second to load, everybody. What are we looking at here? I've got the S&P 500 in the upper left corner, and the rest of these boxes are individually the 11 domestic sectors of the US market. So you're going to find financials, industrials, you're going to find technology and healthcare and energy, etc. And some traders would look at this grid separately. They might take this grid and migrate it to another monitor to give them a way to keep a close eye on all of the sectors simultaneously. Now, that could be a bit much for some traders. Here, it's true when I look at my drop down as being 1 year, 1 day. If I was looking at this on a consistent basis, it might make more sense for each of these to be maybe a like a 3-month period or something like that, because you want to see the near-term trend. But in some cases, you might just be looking for this longer run viewpoint. Maybe the daily chart's not important. Maybe it's a weekly chart that you want to be monitoring because you track the market week to week and month to month, and you don't concern yourself with day-to-day market movements. That's certainly a possibility. So I wanted just to kind of speak to the freedom that this platform offers you. We have selected one here that is just 12 boxes, everybody. But if you'll notice, while we have 12 here, you actually have quite a few more. You can get up to 32 total boxes in one single visual breakdown. Yeah, Austin, why don't I go ahead and share this one with you guys? I'm happy to do that. Remember that when we share these things, grids, scans, scripts, again, they're not guaranteed for your accuracy or not a recommendation for your use by any stretch. So please bear that in mind. They're also not guaranteed for timing, but that's the grid for the sectors and the S&P 500. What's cool when I share this stuff with you, everybody, is it carries my detail. You might not like my detail, so if you want to change your color schemes and everything, let's make sure you all know that there's a way to easily change to your detail. So let's talk briefly. And actually, Austin, because you mentioned more than the ones let's talk about just sharing the ones that I've shared already. I should share with you my Dow theory, just so you've got it, everybody. So that's the first one is my sectors above. So I'm going to write that in. Sectors above. And here we go is my Dow theory. Thank you, Ben, for my disclaimers there. And here's the Dow theory grid for you. And then the other one was the correlation of, let's see, the gold and dollar. So let's just share that one with you guys as well, just so you've got an understanding. And reminder, everybody, when you are utilizing these grids, one of the ways that you can get a familiarity with these, of what's available to you, is to change and customize to a certain extent the chart details. So maybe if, as an example, we go back here to the gold and dollar correlation. If you decided, hey, you know what, I need to look at something different. Let's say, for example, you wanted to look at the relationship between, again, this is merely an example, not some recommendation here. I'm just going to change my secondary security to the semiconductor index, making sure that it appears here. I'm going to hit apply. And then I'm going to change this, instead of gold, I'm going to just change this back to the SPX. And so now I'm looking at the relationship between the S&P 500 and the semiconductor index. And boy, am I seeing quite a clear correlation in movement. That might teach or tell us something about what's going on with the S&P, that perhaps some of the leadership in the S&P right now could be from the semis. My goodness, these two do seem to be working quite closely in concert with each other. What'll be interesting is to see if the semis can start to outperform the S&P 500, excuse me. This is kind of notable. And so if you make changes like this, everybody, remember to just go ahead and change or save your grid. So again, to make it simple on yourself, go back in and just say, oh, I've got that correlation grid that Kevin shared. Now I've changed it to S&P versus semiconductors. So instead of resaving it as gold and dollar, we're just going to go SPX SOX correlation. save it, and now I've got that one available to me immediately, right? At a moment's notice, I can quickly access it, and then you come right back in here. There's my first two, right? My gold and dollar, my gold and silver, and then in my other one, SPX and SOX correlation right here. So think of grids, everybody, not as something that you need to have loaded all the time, but rather they are immediately available for giving me access to the information that I need, but when I need it, not around that, right? I think that's a big way of looking at it, or at least a popular way of looking at the grids and everything here. So yeah, oh, you want my standard grid, I think you mean, is what you mean, Austin. Yeah, let's go back to what I call single stock with intraday. So that's this one right here. And that's my basic grid. Let's put, there we go, S&P. And let's just get that shared out to you there as well. And like I said, everybody, if you're getting this in the archive, I'll make sure you've got these links in the archived version as well. You'll find those in our show notes. All right, brief second here. Okay, so that grid is in there for you. Take advantage if you would like. Now we're going to talk a little bit around something that is not displayed on my chart, but can give you reasons to maybe play around a little bit with some of these features and functions. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring back my correlation chart, and I am going into, since I've got this as a one box chart, okay, I am going to change the style. This way, now reminder, everything I do, no worries, because I've got this saved in its current version. I've got my gold and silver, I've got my gold and dollar, I've got my SPX and SOX. My correlation charts are set up and ready to go. I'm going to my style from here. Style, I'm going to load Kevin's style. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring me back to my standard chart details. Check it out. Right there. So what Kevin's style gets saved as this black background, right? It's got volume and it has RSI and it's got an on-balance volume line in it. So that's the Kevin style with a 20, 50, and 200-day simple moving average. Now I'm still on gold, right? So if I head back to, let's go with Apple here, just an underlying equity. You can see I've got a couple of example positions, example trades currently live. For our purposes, I want to clean this up a little bit. So I'm just going to tell it not to show me orders for the short term. All right. So I want to highlight here that one thing you're not seeing on my chart is what's known as the sidebar. Okay. Now I'm going to put the check mark in here and that sidebar reappears. So what's in the sidebar? Well, the sidebar is what allows me further customizations to my existing chart. So first, remember that this is a separate chart of everything else, right? I have detached this chart, okay? So it lives outside of the housing of the Thinkorswim platform that you see in my borders if you follow my mouse here, right? So all of that is the housing of the Thinkorswim desktop, and I've simply detached one single chart, and I have now loaded Apple in that chart, and I have activated the buttons. Currently, I'm going to go ahead and maximize this just for our visuals, and currently, the only thing highlighted here is my chart, okay? Now, if I didn't want to see the chart, I could uncheck it and I've got a blank box. And then I could start building what I do want to see here. Maybe I want to see news. Maybe I need to see the level 2 data. And maybe I do want the chart, but I want to see it this way, right? Maybe I want to play around a little bit with the size or location of some of my detail. Okay. Now, some of my counterparts have also made available to us some ideas for ways that an active trader might choose to look at this. In fact, one of my colleagues built one titled exclusively Active Trader, I think. Here it is. Let's take a look at this visual real quick. All right, so what they've done, they've built a 2-chart grid where the left-hand side shows the chart. See the chart button depressed here, everybody, in the middle? That's the only thing that's depressed. But look over on the right, and we've got the Active Trader button. We've got time and sales loaded as well. So we've got the ability to place a quick trade by hitting the buy at market or hitting the sell at market detail here. And we can get out of those positions rather quickly. We've got an intra-period 5-minute chart here, 5-day, 5-minute. So this might be a helpful way to monitor an individual equity alongside time and sales. Some traders would say time and sales is great, but it's nothing if I don't have news. All right, let's add news down there. Okay, we need our news headlines. These are all going to be linked in directly. That's the hope that we're getting here. Now, we are asking for all of these channels, give us that live news. So that's certainly ideal, right, if you're looking for more details. But don't forget, it's not as exclusive to what I've listed here. What if I wanted to see option chains? Because I've got 2 charts side by side, everybody, I could choose to put the option chain right here on this right bar or this right-sided chart, right? Or, which I can also manipulate. Notice the midpoint here, I can manipulate a little bit, okay? Or if I didn't want the options chain on my right side chart, I maybe want it on my left side. I'm going to click it right here. And now I've got it right below my chart, and I can access current market for this week's expiration, the 2 series of contracts above and below the at the money is what I'm showing just 4. I want to expand it. Let's go to 10. But some traders might find this to be a helpful visual. I know that not everybody loves the ability to see, loves the requirement rather from the housed version of Thinkorswim, right, to get access to the option chains, right? If you're familiar, here we are, Kev, where are my option chains? I got to go over to trade. And now I can't see the chart because of the way that I have this currently built. But if you'd like the idea of having that option chain right beneath your chart, you might find that you just haven't been aware or you have not played sufficiently with these buttons available to you in the standard grid format. Yeah, Sia, you absolutely should have access to level 2 here. That should be part and parcel of access to the platform. Should not have to do anything further. It should be a default load, which is interesting for some of you who maybe have been around the market as long as I have, as long as Ben has. There was a time when I was on the phones, not only was I encouraging individuals to, hey, check out their account. Did you know that we have a website? Did you know that you can look at your account online? Can I help you set up login credentials? Let me explain what login credentials means. That's what we used to do in the late 90s. But level 2 was a big part of the request for so many traders at the time. Not only because it was something that you couldn't really gain access to, it was more data than we had at our fingertips as retail average traders. And here we are 25 years down the road, and we have all of this information to us. Commissions are down to negligible amounts. Majority of equities in the markets in the US trade for free. So you have a lot of access to data and details that you otherwise did not have previously. So some big changes over time. And again, what's the takeaway, Kev, as it relates to Thinkorswim and charting and grid formation? Well, the takeaway should be, hey, I need to spend a little time determining, can I benefit from using some of these tools? And if so, how do I want them built, right? Exactly, Ricebird, something to experiment, right? So some ways to be thinking about things. Now we get to some of the fun stuff. Yeah, Sia, you're asking me about location of the detail. In this format, which is just our standard charts and standard grid, there's going to be some limitation as to the location of things. However, as Ben just points out, you should note that the flexible grid will give you access to some of this stuff otherwise. Let me show you Flex Grid. So we're going to go back to charts. And notice here, we're on charts by default. This is probably where the most of us hang out. But if you go to Flexible Grid, you're going to find access to the exact same tools, everybody. So let's go into my grid actions here. Now I need to make sure, so that I can customize this, we got to have that check mark in the customized grid. Why? Because it allows me to open or delete boxes. So notice here, this is a slash through it. I'm going to click it. It's going to eliminate that box. Now the other box overtakes what's been eliminated. I'm going to do that again with this box, and it's going to then be overtaken by the larger chart here. Okay, so I'm going to also, let's see, I need to activate my buttons in here. So let's see. I thought that was going to be right here for me. So, all right, so here's what we're going to do. I know it's in here somewhere, but we're going to go ahead and add back. Oh, there it is, my sidebar. Boop, there it is. So there's all my criteria. Hope you enjoyed that little audible boop out of me. We have this, well, we're going to change this. Let's go back and change this to, how about a 1 year, 1 day chart. We're going to go back and put Apple on here. And we're also going to just make sure that all of my criteria are there the way that I want it. So I'm just going to go back to load style. We're going to load Kevin's style. So everything's now built to Kevin's preference. Now I can choose in this is a single flex grid, right? And I can add in the option chain here. As soon as I click it, there it goes, right? So I've got that ability. Or I can use my customized box in the center. Do I want to add it as above this chart as an example? See ya, okay? Do I want it above it? Do I want it to the side of it? How about to the side? Okay, there we go. Now I've opened out a second box, and I'm going to see the sidebar, but I might have to close portionally this and bring it over like so. It'll appear here in just a second as I put in another symbol. So these two charts right now aren't speaking to each other, and now they are. Okay? And so here, instead of the chart, what if I just wanted the option chain and the dashboard so that I can place my buy or sell, or better yet, not the dashboard, but maybe just the trade buttons at the top. Okay? And so again, I hope what I'm doing here is not giving you the way to do it, but rather opening some avenues in your brain that say, I didn't realize I had that kind of freedom. Maybe that means I can do this as well. Yes, you can absolutely link them up. If you'd prefer, you can also unlink them if you prefer, right? Some traders want to be able to see maybe an underlying equity on one side and maybe an index in which that underlying equity trades. That they could move side by side. They can have some clear correlation there, perhaps. It's one way also to think about it. So anytime you see this box, know that we can play with it. Click the next box. Now I've got a build below it. Do I want to split this one in two so they're side by side beneath my order entry, beneath my option chain, like so? Now I've got two side by side. Okay. And let's go ahead and just, again, put in these color schemes. Here we go. So my linkage is all proper. And then I might just need to change my tool. So my gadget is on option chain. So let me show you that move again, because often I hear, Kevin, I've lost my buttons. Once my buttons are gone, I don't know where to go. Well, use your actions menu here, everybody. Right here. Basically, all we're changing is the gadget. So instead of, I have option chains up above, how about we make this one level 2? And let's uncheck the gadget for option chain. Now that should have eliminated my option chain here, everybody. I'm not sure why it didn't, but it should have. And then additionally over here where we've got the option chain loaded, what if we wanted this instead to be news? So let's uncheck that. Make it live news, for example. So I was expecting this to, oh, I see what I've done. Hang on a sec. Let's just uncheck that. There we go. Uncheck that. And just do a quick rebuild here. There we go. So again, play with this detail, everybody. Make it what you want it to be. You don't have to get stuck with something that's not helpful, okay? And I think that that's one of the things that I had to learn right off, is I needed to, boy, did I have to play with it. A lot of this, for many of you, you love the idea of giving yourself steps, and then you're going to go build to ensure that you're getting what you're wanting from the tool. For me, it was basically forced. I had to force my hand. I had to try and work with it every single day, and I had to make note of the things that I needed to address, and then I'd have to work my way through it to build the layouts that make sense for the way that I want to do things. And by the way, once you are set up with your layout, your preferred layout, the way you want to see it, this is when you just go about either unchecking your sidebar, which will eliminate your opportunity to accidentally hit a button, but also come back up to your grid and uncheck customized grid, and then the boxes go away, and now you can't, as an accident, you can't replace something accidentally. And of course, I hope it goes without saying, we would encourage you here to save your flexible grid, give it a name, right? And that way, when you click on the drop down here, you'll find, let's give this one, we're just going to call this something different today. So let's call it Wednesday. Oops. Oh, and I should show you this, everybody. It does pop out for me, but it started on my main window here. So I'm just going to title that Wednesday. And then when I come into the grid here, you'll see I've got my, oops, if I can get that icon out of there, show actions button, thank you. MCU Flex Grid and my Wednesday grid. So I'm not sure what the MCU Flex Grid is, but oh, there you go. How about that? That looks fun. That might be a bit busy for some traders, but looks like one of my strategist or regional colleagues has built this in here as another way to look at it. But again, make sure you save everything, because you want to be able to get back quickly to what you do want to use, obviously. You're right, Ricebird, everybody else. See, you're talking about the need for these additional monitors. Certainly, if nothing else, Thinkorswim may very well encourage you to branch out a little bit, spread its usage over multiple monitors. It can absolutely be quite helpful. And I know that we didn't cover everything for you all today, but my hope is that a look at the grids, a look at flexible grids has been helpful. But I also wanted to mention one other thing today that has kind of been, I was reminded of a little bit this week, and that is that any of our studies, if you're like me, you guys want to customize your studies, right? And I've done that. I've got an RSI down below. I'm using the default of gray, but you'll notice that my default of gray is a little thicker than the one that it defaults to. Meaning when we come into the studies and you go to RSI, the width of my RSI is a 3. But the default to that is a 1, okay? Now, if you wanted, every time you load RSI, you want it to default to your color. Okay, let's say you want it to be purple and you want it to be the nice thick 5. Just save it as a default, and then every time you reload it, guess what? It's going to come up in those new details. So if I go in here and let's remove it entirely, it's off the chart, right? No more RSI. Okay. Go back in, and now I'm going to have to reload RSI. Double click. There it is again. Hit apply. And the details that I had saved as my default, now it launches the way that I want it every single time. So you know how we have simple moving averages default to a 9-period SMA? Maybe you'll never use a 9-period SMA. Maybe the absolute worst or lowest, fastest moving average you'd ever incorporate might be the 10. And so just come here, change it. 10. 10 period. We'll make it white. We'll make it a line of 3. Cool. Hit as default. And now every time you load a simple moving average, it's going to be a white, 3-width, 10-day simple moving average. Okay. Simple period moving average. So I'll tell you, those are some of the things that are just easy to miss. And they pop up for me. It's been, I don't know, let's see, it's 2025 June. I'm going on 20 months of using this tool every single day. And that one just recently occurred to me. So I couldn't help but point out that there is absolutely an opportunity for you to minimize your steps across the board, everybody, whether it be a study, whether it be use of the grids, etc. You've got a lot of options at your fingertips. Let me see here about some of these specific questions. Multiple standard deviation grid. Oh, yeah. I think that was the MCU that I had shown. I'm not familiar with this one, I'll be honest. So this is not one that I built. So I'll admit not having a whole lot of familiarity with it, but let me see if I can get that back. No, I think that was not. Oh, wait, hang on. Nope, so that's the, nope, that's not the one we wanted. It's going to be part of my flex grid. All right, so here we go. My MCU flex grid. I think this is the one you were looking for. Is that right, Sia? I think so. I'm going to go ahead and I'll just share that one right here as well. All right. And then, because we covered some fairly specific detail for you all today, I feel like I should absolutely mention and make you aware as a reminder that you have access to the entire archive here, everybody. And while it's not on the home page here, using the search function, getting started, Think or Swim, will bring you right to the playlist for this class. And this playlist is updated weekly, of course, as Cam or us friends host this for him. You can see here every week you get a new update. And if something that you were looking for today, for example, was not set up or not discussed, come right here. You can absolutely work your way down the list. We've got a bunch of them here, 85 videos. Alternatively, if you know exactly what it is you're looking for, definitely come here. Let's say, for example, you were wanting to learn about OCO, one cancels other orders. You might just type that into the search box here. And there you go. We've got Thinkorswim desktop OCO orders on stocks right away. Okay. The reason I'm bringing this up is the power of that search function gets better every single day because the archive grows every single day. And your opportunity to continue learning is nearly endless. Not literally endless, but nearly endless. You'd have to spend quite a few days in the channel here and in the archives if you were going to run through everything that we have available for you. So hopefully you find that helpful. But we have, as Cam likes to say, we have set out what we had hoped to do today. I want to thank you all for being here. Big thanks to Ben Watson in the chat. And if you're getting this in the archive, check the show notes, everybody, because I'm going to have these grids that we have shared live available in show notes. And I'll remind you once more that the grids are not a guarantee for timing or for their accuracy, and they're not a recommendation for your use. But what I want to encourage you to do if you decide to load and access these grids is to play with them, customize them, resave them, utilize them. You're absolutely right. Steep learning curve, no doubt. But if you spend the time to build the tool, utilizing and accessing the detail you're looking for, it's going to make the trading within the platform that much better. And I think it starts from working with a tool that aesthetically looks the way you want it. And so some of those changes might just start off as we did today via that gear icon and the ultimate application settings. So hopefully you all found that helpful. All right, we'll wrap it there, everybody. Thanks for being here. Follow Ben and me on X. Hit that thumbs up button down below and make sure you're subscribed to the Schwab YouTube coaching channel. Remember, Thursday is a holiday this week. We will catch up with you again on Friday. Have a great afternoon. I'll see you again real soon, everybody.